Subcommittee joint meeting. So just a brief introduction. I'm Su-Fan Wong. I am the chair of the Pharmaceutical Science Committee. And sitting next to me is Joyce Lee from UC Davis. And we're going to make an announcement later, so you will find the significance of Joyce. So I also note that today is Friday the 13th. So good luck to all of us to make sure we get the meeting successfully completed in the next 2 hours. And actually, I will try my best to finish it a little bit earlier, so you have time to go to the plenary sections also. All right. Okay, so just a few slides because there's a special occasion. This year is the 30th year for the Hope Foundation. Some of you know Hope Foundation is part of SWOG, but which also allowed us to provide the flexibility for us to collaborate and interface with entities beyond NCI. And Hope Foundation has been very instrumental in providing a lot of grant fundings to promote the success of SWOG also. So in honor of that, I just want to share a few slides with you. And of course, there is a goal for Hope Foundation to have 100% participation of members at SWOG to provide some level of donation to make to promote for the continuing success of Hope Foundation. So if you want to learn more about Hope Foundation, there's some of the link provided that you can learn more about the history of Hope and also the spectrum of activities as well. And most importantly, these are some of the funding opportunities. Pay attention if you feel that this is something that you can apply for, please do that. And those are all financial things that come from Hope Foundation and is through donations and etc. So this has produced a lot of leaders and also very impactful researchers at SWOG as well. So with that, I'm going to dive into our agenda items. So the first thing is I want to introduce a couple of new members. Now, the next slide, I'm going to show you the membership list. The name are not on that list yet, because typically new members will go through a voting process through the Board of Governors, which is going to occur tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. And then, so Jordan and V will officially be a member of the PSC, because as far as I know, the membership application has been completed and being reviewed. So as I think I introduced Jordan at the last meeting, so he is brand new member to our committee. He is a pharmacist at Huntsman Cancer Institute, and he's already a pharmacist liaison with the new Immunotherapeutics Committee. So we have a few slides later on at this meeting to share a little bit of what the Immunotherapeutics Committee will be like, also for your information. The second person is Vi Bui. She is actually an alum of our residence writer program that we set up a few years ago. Very proud to say that out of 4 alum, we have 3 members who is now a full member of the PSC committee. So I'm very thrilled about that because besides having them help us and also to enrich their learning experience to write the section 3 of the drug information section to enrich their learning, part of my goal, which I didn't share, is to really hope that they will become long-term members of the Pharmaceutical Science Committee. And even though some of them are not technically SWOG institution, but they all are welcome. So I'm so grateful to have 3 out of 4 alum be a member. And more significantly, B is going to be, again, I'm breaking the news is that she'll be taking over Andrew's position as the subcommittee chair. And I'll explain the reason why. But Andrew Smith was also at the inaugural graduate of the residency program. And later on, I think Andrew will also share more information about the incoming writers. And as you can see, it will be an expansion of the program, and we anticipate a further expansion of that pool of writers also in the next year. So moving on to next one, we have summary report of the chair and committee activities. So I will go through those. So first of all, these are the current membership list. I will post all this slide after the meeting and send it to all of the people on the membership list. And so please review this if you feel that some of the people perhaps you know are no longer the institution, etc., and they should be taken off. Or if you are one that people that you wanted to be taken off, then let me know. I try my best to clean up the list as much as I can. Some of those members, although you may not know who they are, however, they have been long-term contributors to the committee. So I maintain them on the membership list, even though they're no longer active, in honor of the past contribution also. An example of that is Lara Auld from Hawaii. And of course, John Kuhn, many of you I hope you know, because I always jokingly call him the godfather oncology pharmacist. He's based at UT, and I believe he might be retired. However, John has been very instrumental, and he has been a fantastic leader to grow our oncology pharmacy area also. So, so I'm maintaining him on the lifetime as an honorary member of the committee. This drug interaction initiative, this is something that Dan Hurst from Michigan has been spearheading. I know that it's kind of taking a pause right now for this initiative because of a barrier of recruitment for him to conduct this study through the cancer care delivery. I have not gotten a chance to catch up with Dan and see where things are. Certainly, this is something that I feel very significant, so I'm maintaining it on the agenda list, and I hope that this will, the momentum will come back again in the near future, because most importantly is because the ultimate intention of this project is to collaborate with a commercial vendor to develop a tool that will allow us to do drug interaction checks, and even for investigational agent, which many of you probably know that you can't find those information in current commercial available platform. So I will definitely maintain this, and I hope that we can resume this activity soon. I don't know if there's any, by the way, if you have any comments, suggestions, or question, if you can go up to the microphone so that we can pick it up from for the people that are attending virtual to be able to hear it also. Thank you. Okay, so the next agenda item is to just provide you all an update of the APP Advanced Practice Provider Task Force at SWOG. So this task force was formed in honor of the NCI's proposed APP initiative, which is to broaden the engagement of higher level research activities, including enrollment, eligibility, signing off documents, or creating orders and things like that by non-physicians. This is a way also to hope to improve accrual, particularly in the area of DEI accrual. So that's part of the background for the formation of this APP task force. So it's a multidisciplinary task force. There's a lot of project going on. This is kind of an old slide. I have an updated one, but since I was not able to access those slides while I'm here, so I'm just using an old slide, but I think the membership is quite current, except that I manually add in Joyce because she's also now part of the APP task force. So later on, we will be sharing with you one of the projects that the spearheading in collaboration with the APP task force from our committee also. So in addition to that, I just want to share with you that the APP task force has actually created a training program. So if you use the link that I provided on this slide, you'll get to a page and then you'll see the information on the lower half of the slide, and you will be able to find the link to that I circle in red of the workshop. So this workshop is providing you with multiple modules that you can get CME also, and in addition to that is when you complete this APP, I think there's a certain certification program for that. So this is intended for all disciplinaries. So even for pharmacists. So if you are interested, I would highly encourage you to utilize this. And this is also reviewed by the NCI colleagues also for the APP initiative. So take a look at that and take the workshop, the learning modules for that. Anything you want to add?
No, I think that's a really, I haven't done it yet, but I'm definitely planning to complete this workshop. And I think it's really good information and learning for all of the practitioners.
And so this is on the SWOG website, as you can see from the link. So as I mentioned, there will be some announcement. The first thing is the Pharmaceutical Science Committee Chair Transition Plan. Some of you may or may not know, I have been chair of this committee since 1994 when I founded this committee. Yes, I'm an old fart by now. So time to pass on the torch, and I've been trying that for over a decade. And I'm finally successful now. So I'm so grateful for that. So Joyce has agreed to serve as the next chair. So at the meantime, to facilitate for smooth transition, we will co-chair this committee for the next 12 to 18 months, but I just have been warned that it might take longer. So we'll see. But I'm working on that timeline myself. So the nice thing is because, as you know, the incoming group chair, one of the co-chair is Dr. Lara, and he is at UC Davis also. So Joyce already worked with Dr. Lara before all this for many years. So this will facilitate a really nice partnership and collaboration for our committee, having a group chair in the same institution. So I just provided you some background information about Joyce. And even after I step down, I plan on remaining as a committee member if they allow me to. So that's my plan. So Joyce, would you like to say something?
Oh, I'm very honored. Oh no, like, oh, forgot. I'm very honored and humbled to have this opportunity to serve this committee. Thank you for Sylvan's leadership for all these years. Without her, this committee would not exist. So I'm looking forward to these new positions, and I'm very grateful that Sylvan agreed to co-chair for the next 12 to 18 months or 2 years, because I will need a lot of mentorship and guidance on this big role. But like what I said, looking forward to continuing to working with all of you. And if any question or any concern or ideas, please feel free to contact me. My email is on the slide. Anytime that you can contact me or Sylvan for any questions. So thank you again.
So of course, we also have another leadership position in transition. So Andrew Smith, as I mentioned earlier, is one of our inaugural alum from the Section 3 Writer Program. And he took on the leadership of the Drug Information Subcommittee Chair for the past 2 years and have done a fantastic job and is well recognized within SWOG for all his good work. Unfortunate for us, but good for him. He actually has a promotion at University of Michigan. So his job responsibility is more diversified. So consequence to that, he has requested to step down as the chair. And thank goodness the next generation. V. Bui has agreed to serve the chair, so it will promote a very smooth transition. And of course, V has gone through the whole program through as a writer. And so I think she will have a very good insight into how to facilitate for all the activities related to that. And later on, as I talk about a new initiative that we'll be doing, I hope to convey to you that the significance of us having this group of very IDS focused pharmacists within our committee to continue to do the work in developing the Section 3 drug information sections. So first of all, before I hand the microphone over to Andrew, he cannot attend the meeting in person, but I know he's online. Before I hand the microphone to him, I wanted to publicly acknowledge the good job that Andrew has done. And I really appreciate him as a collaborator and a partner in crime also. I'm very grateful that Andrew also will able to remain as a committee member, but he would just step off from the chairperson position. So Andrew, please, if you would like to say something.
Yes, thank you, Sufang, for those very kind words. I am very grateful for the opportunity to have served in this position for the past 2 years. I know when you first extended the invite, I agreed to do it for 1 year, but then went on to do it for 2 years. And again, I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity. It's been a privilege to work with the committee and all the committee members and the learners. So again, I'm very grateful for the opportunity and a very good experience. And I'm sad to be stepping down, but I'm happy I can stick around and help with other initiatives here.
Thank you, Andrew. So before I have you take over the next section of the meeting, V, I see you online also. Would you like to say something, introduce yourself, etc.?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I look forward to working with the SWOG group. And I can't wait to see what we can do in the future. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
And I also thank you for stepping up to take the leadership role as well. Thank you. Okay, Andrew, Section 2, Drug Information Subcommittee report, all yours.
Thank you so much. If you go to the next slide with the tables. Yeah, as Sufan had mentioned, welcome to V. I think the transition plan for this fall will be a little bit informal. As we get section requests coming in, I'll kind of help train V, and so you might be seeing emails from both of us or one of us. We're just gonna kind of see how the fall goes, but the ultimate plan would be for her to be at the helm by the end of the year. And then next slide, please. So it's been a relatively quiet summer, knock on wood. There's only been 7 requests. I think we mostly managed these at U of M because we had a lot of students this summer. So I think the students were able to help. But again, thank you to everybody who always helps to jump in and to write and review sections. And then next slide, please. And then welcome to our new learners for this academic year. We have 3 PGY2 investigational drugs and research residents. So we have Chow from Johns Hopkins, we have Casey from UC Davis, and Alan from University of Michigan. You might notice that UC Davis is a new program. So we're happy that Joyce is able to make those connections, and we're able to add the UC Davis program to our list of programs that are participating. And then we also have Madison, who is the Chapman Amgen Oncology Fellow. So we welcome all of those learners.
And Madison is attending our meeting in person, so she's in the audience. So Madison, you want to stand up so everybody get a chance to know? Yeah, thank you.
So those are all the updates I
Andrew.
have. Yeah, those are all the updates I have, very short and sweet. Again, thank you to everyone.
Andrew, are we planning to recruit another couple of more programs?
Yeah, that's a great point. So over the past maybe 3 to 5 years, there's been a rapid expansion of the PGY2 investigational drugs and research programs. So I believe we're up to maybe 7 to 10 programs nationally. So I think it would be it's a great opportunity for us to reach out to those programs and see if they would like to participate and contribute. But also for the committee members here, if you have a learner at your site, I mean, it could even be a PGY2 oncology resident, but if you have a learner or a resident, a fellow, you would like to invite to participate here, please reach out to me, V, or Sufan, and we'd be happy to bring them into the fold and add them to the rotation of writers.
Okay, so maybe we can work on that to look at where all the programs are and decide on if we should approach all of them or we should select a few programs. I don't know if we need like all 10. What do you think?
Right. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think we could maybe compare the list of SWOG participating sites and the list of programs and kind of prioritize those sites first.
I didn't realize the metastasis rate was so high. I thought it was only like about 5 programs or so. Thank you for clarifying that, Andrew. Because when I first started this invitation, I did my research and I was able to find 2 programs, and that's how we started with Michigan and Johns Hopkins. So it's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, it's very fortunate for the field as well that we have these training programs that we're able to train IDS
Indeed.
practitioners.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, so after this meeting, perhaps I'll schedule a time, Andrew with and V and Joyce and myself. Maybe we can kind of look at the current list and do some prioritization of that, and then send out some invitation. Do you feel that we should get more writers? I mean, I do want to make sure they all get a chance to write up a section 3 as part of their learning purpose also.
Right, I agree. I think it might be good to add a small handful more. I agree with you. I don't think we need to add all
Okay.
10 programs per se. And as you know, with the new initiatives for the like the epic builds and beacon builds, there might be, you know, new opportunities for these learners as well. So I think there may not be a lack of work either. So I think there's definitely opportunities to explore.
What do you guys think? Like Savvy and
I think like you said, I agree. I think
oh, you can.
I agree with you. I think
They control that. So
I think keeping it small at the beginning would be beneficial to make sure that everyone has a chance to write a portion of the protocol, and maybe start conversations with maybe adding another center, 1 or 2, not necessarily reaching out to everybody, and that way by the time you set them up, you can with our new projects coming up with the CPOE initiative, we might need more people to do the writing so that it's less on the reviewers. So
yeah, it's a good point. So part of it is I would just also want to clarify, in case if you are detailed enough to see that medicine is actually coming from a fellowship that is a university and MGen joint program. But because of the MGen portion of that, the fellows service is only available for 6 months in the year. Once when they move to MGen, then they will no longer be able to participate in writing for the section 3 also. So essentially, right now we have 3.5 writers for the year. All right, so we'll take it from there and then see if we which program we should reach out to us and take care of that, and then we'll report back at the next meeting. Protocol review activities. I think I see Holly on. I don't see George. Holly, do you have anything to report?
No, I don't have any requests other than the one that I collaborated with you last year.
Yes. Right. And I when I have opportunity, I have been making it known that we are not getting any requests, but I do know that there have been protocols being approved. So perhaps this is something that we need to think about. However, I do feel that with the CPOE initiative that we'll be talking about in detail, that might open up an opportunity to reactivate this activity also. So I'm going to pause this, and then when we talk about CPOE, we can kind of bring this back and see how maybe we can kind of integrate the activities of that. And I know because of so many people involved in protocol development and review, sometimes it might have just gotten forgotten. So we'll see if we can approach it with a different strategy to see if we can reactivate, because I do feel that this has been very helpful for the to as a pharmacist conduct part of the protocol review as a member of the protocol review team. And this is really sometimes just based on my own experience, Holly, as we, for example, get special invitation to support a certain protocol. And I think, the team can see what we can contribute also. So let's just put this on hold for now, and then let's revisit this and think about how we can integrate these activities. Is Matt? Yes. Okay, good. So the next thing on the agenda item is the Aurora update. So as you all know, phase 1 has already been rolled out, and so I'm going to ask Matt, as well as if you are a user of Aurora, to provide some feedback. I'll start with Matt first, and I also wanted to acknowledge the quite ORP members in the audience attending this committee meeting. I'm so thrilled to get a chance to meet you and know that you're here. And I would also wanted to see if, from your perspective, you have any encounter with the Aurora system and how it works out too. So we'll start with Matt. So Matt is our liaison pharmacist from NCI. Matt, yes, thank you.
Yep. Hi, Sufan. Thanks for the introduction, and apologies for not being able to be there in person. So as Sufan said, we released Aurora, the first portion of Aurora in January, and we've been dealing with the fallout since. We have been pretty satisfied with how things have gone, albeit not completely smoothly, but we're getting out of the system what we expected, and it seems like the external community is able to access and get the information that they need and get the ordering completed efficiently. I think that was probably the less exciting information for sites to hear about. The next phase, which is going to be the incorporation of the eDARF from NCI, is going to be the one that people are really going to be more interested in and following more closely. We get this question all the time about integration between off-the-shelf systems. We have engaged in discussions with, as Sufan has here, NCU and Investigo, to see to have an information exchange to see where we can align and how we can make things work so that we can avoid some of the issues that people are concerned about, specifically the double entry or duplicate work. We certainly don't want that to be the case. But as I said, we just started those discussions with NCU Investigo, so there's not really too much of an update or a timeline for when or if changes will be able to be made to the system to accommodate one, both, or any other systems. The eDARF, depending on what you've heard and what you've interpreted, is going to be, it will be released probably well, I'm not going to give a timeline, but it's probably somewhere 6 months-ish, I'm thinking, based on where we are in development and other things that are going on within the program. It will not be mandatory in the beginning. So there is going to be time for us to work on these integration points with NCU Investigo. And hopefully that will be smoothed out before there's any real talk of making the EDARF, the NCI EDARF mandatory. So that's kind of the state of the union for Aurora. I'd be interested in hearing, as Sufan said, if there are any questions, comments, concerns about the system as it exists today, and if you're having any issues, and if there's any questions that I can take forward for with your concerns.
So before I ask people to come up to the microphone, if I may, so I understand meetings has occurred, and from what I can gather, those meetings were positive, right? Between all these IT folks.
Yeah, certainly. I think, we had engaged, and not to get into the history too much, but we did engage the companies early on in development of Aurora, and it didn't seem like there was interest in the beginning in any sort of collaboration. I think they were thinking that we would be infringing on their territory, and that's, we're not looking to replace their systems any way, shape, or form. It's really looking to bolster our documentation and our information that we're able to access for regulatory reports and FDA and that kind of information. So we did engage them early, and I think it was kind of a wait and see. And now that Aurora has been released, there's been some renewed interest. We re-engaged with the companies, and they have expressed interest in working with us. I think we're at the point we've had the meet and greets, but we're working through the legal NDA and all of those kinds of things side of it before we get into the I'll show you mine if you show me yours kind of thing. So that's kind of where we are right now.
But to me, I think it sounds like at least things are moving forward, right? They're not sitting still.
Yeah, there's definitely mutual interest in making things work, because I think that the external community has advocated to their representatives from NCU Investigo, and they have been heard. And we have also heard the external community's concerns, and we are engaging with them. So hopefully we'll be able to come to a mutual agreeable solution to have a smooth integration between the systems.
Yeah, great. I mean, I got a chance to have a glimpse at a post-meeting notes from one of the commercial vendor that they share with the chairs of all the cooperative group chairs, and I see it very positive. So I'm quite optimistic about that. So I'm correct, right, Matt?
Yeah, I would agree. I'm optimistic. We had the initial meeting, and it's not progressed as quickly as I would have liked to see. But I think that kind of happens whenever you get the lawyers involved and they have their discussions and how everybody wants to, everybody wants to protect their IP, which is understandable. And we certainly want to be sensitive to that and want to make sure that they're comfortable disclosing functionality and that kind of stuff with us.
Right. Well, that's good to hear. So now I'm going to open up the floor for any of the people participating in virtual or in person, if you have any questions or suggestions, etc.
Hi, thank you, Matt, for the updates. That makes me feel better, because I was worried about the EDARF portion when it becomes mandatory. Aurora is working great. I actually like it. I don't have any issues with it.
Good.
Again, our worry, I think, is the EDAR and then the duplication of work. That's what we're worried about, because I could just see us forgetting how to, you know, to go back to the system and then do EDAR portion and Aurora, and ending up with a lot of late entries and, you know, issues later. I did speak to one of the vendors, and they said that the meeting went great, and they are very hopeful that they can, or there's a possibility of finding an interface between the two systems. So that's great, because now I believe there is a solution. So even though if we have to do it for quite some time until the interface or they're able to find a way to integrate the systems, that's still okay. You know, if we do it for 6 months, a year, it's fine. It's just the fact that before I used to think that this is gonna be like, this is it. We're gonna have to have two systems.
No, I mean, from the outset, the intent was not double documentation or extra work. You know, and a lot of I think that some of the larger institutions are more integrated with the off-the-shelf systems, and you know, some of them use it soup to nuts, and some of them use it just for inventory control, depending on how your institution has integrated with the off-the-shelf program. You know, we're looking to see where we can feed into that. Unfortunately, initial discussions, it doesn't look like we'll be able to receive information from them because of how we'll need to track our information with regard to ordering and receipt and transfers and local destructions. Eventually, when the EDARF is released and it's been integrated at a site level, we're going to transition to a local destruction primary. That's going to be the primary source of destruction, so you won't have to return anything. And all of that kind of feeds into the inventory tracking that we're required to do for our INDs and reporting back to the company. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and hopefully, I'm glad to hear that there's been multiple reports from the company side that they viewed the interactions as positive. That's important. Thank you.
Kimberly, I see your hands up. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to hear about this. We haven't had an issue at our site with using the system. The question has come up if the future changes or implementation in second stage would affect how we're registered as a site. We essentially have a satellite and a main. Everything gets shipped to the main site, and then we have our hospital like literally adjacent to the main location. So the question has come up if we would have to change our registration and have the satellite site be its own separate site, or if we can continue with the way we have it. And then my second question is, we're still using paper. I'm just wondering if that interface, when it is set up, is it ideally going to be bi-directional, or do you foresee any issues with us having either an advantage or disadvantage if we remain on paper until the implementation's been completed with the external vendors and PMB?
Okay, so let me repeat. I was in and out there for a second. Let me see if I got both. There were two questions. So the first one was about the all right, now I just blanked.
Satellites.
Oh, this satellite. So within Aurora in the EDARF application, there's going to be the ability to set up a satellite. So there's no need to have you wouldn't necessarily need to have a separate site code or anything for that particular location, if that's the question. The satellite could function just like you do now, and you know, anything. The distinction that some sites have come across that they've run into, not issue, but just that we needed to clarify. If you're setting up, everybody has the ability to set up a PSD package now, and the PSD is where we're shipping drug directly. And if we're shipping drug directly to a location, that by definition is a control. If there's a satellite, as you're talking, where you want to receive it at one location and transport it across the street to the inpatient or to the other facility, that would be managed in the EDARF as a dispensing location, and that would be a separate dispensing satellite underneath the EDARF functionality.
So it will essentially stay the same, right? Like there's not going to be a change in that process.
Correct. Yeah, the release of the EDARF would not force a change. It's just, if you want to call it forcing, we're forcing you to identify it on within the system. But there wouldn't necessarily be a change to how it functions for you.
Okay, thank you.
And then the second question was about the transition from paper to EDARF. So if your system, so do you have any integration right now with one of the off-the-shelf systems?
We do not. We're strictly paper.
Okay. So I think that we really kind of just straw poll have heard many sites that are on paper are kind of excited to get something free from the government. So, you know, the transition to the EDARF system when it's released for people that are on paper, there are mechanisms in there to kind of facilitate that transition to allow you a smoother transition from paper to electronic. And that we may have a little bit different view on from the perspective of trying to get away from paper and almost making that mandatory if you're on a paper-based system now. Does that kind of answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Great. Thanks, Matt. I don't see any hand raised, virtual. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, well, this agenda item will remain and will continue, and Matt will continue to ask you to provide us with update as we move along with the phase 2.
Sure.
Thank you.
So Yvonne, I didn't
Yes.
see my name in the and I shouldn't be a named member, but I didn't see my contact information there. If people have questions or they want to email me directly, they can certainly do that.
Yeah, I will add that to the slide before I post it.
Okay,
at
perfect.
the same time, you're also on our mailing list. So
Yeah.
since you know we pharmacists are very good as a detective, so I figure out. No. But no, thanks for the reminder. I will add your email address, joking aside, on the slides before I post it. Thank you.
Thanks.
So now we're moving on to the next items. As we started a couple of meetings ago, I was asked because between meetings, oftentimes we get a lot of very oftentimes interesting and can be challenging inquiries from the group on various aspects of things, I would say, relating to pharmaceutical issues. So I selected one because to me, I think this stands out as one of the more interesting one. Is we actually receive, not we, but this, the SWOG office receive an inquiry from an investigator site about how to manage a drug storage excursion issue because apparently there was a change in the temperature in the site in the drug storage area. So they were trying to figure out how they should be managing this. And that kind of led to a more systemic question rather than an isolated incident. So the question becomes, who should serve as the resource for investigator sites to inquire about appropriate action when drug storage excursion occurs at the investigator site? so we find that this is, that was quite interesting. So after talking to Matt and also talking to the SWOG office, we come up with a proposed solution. So a lot of people were saying that, well, everybody should just call the PMB, except that PMB doesn't always distribute the drug. Or the other thing, the more, another actually more common answer was called the drug manufacturer. So my understanding is the drug manufacturer is declining to answer such question. So at first I was not happy when I heard that. I said, they should be the one providing the information, but really with further communication. I think this is the importance of really trying to calm down and then ask for the why. And what I learned something that we never really thought about it in a more specific sense is a lot of time. So I said, well, if it's a lot number, we should have the stability data. So why would that ever change? Well, the thing is that because a lot of time drug excursion occurs because there's a change in the storage condition. So then if we really think about it, the drug may come from the sponsor or the drug manufacturer. So they would have the drug stability data when they ship out the drug. However, the drug storage excursion can occur throughout the steps because the drug goes to the distributor first and before it goes to the site. So therefore, there's actually one additional stop where drug excursion issue can occur. And then it will change what the drug manufacturer know of the drug stability data. So this is kind of where part of what we come up with a proposed solution come about. So I had a long conversation with Matt about this and talk about, you know, what we should be managing that. So I think we are proposing this solution, and I wanted to share just so that to make sure that some of you may have additional input and feelings about that, and then we can talk about it also. So our proposed solution is the first step is to determine where the study drug is coming from. And this is something that we intend to incorporate in some kind of maybe procedure policy to inform the investigator site. And I had conversation with the op office of that as well. But I also wanted to make sure that, that we agree on the content of our proposed solution. So we figure based on the rationale that I shared with you guys earlier. So we feel that the first thing is to determine who distributes the drug, because we know the study drug can be distributed by PMB, can be distributed by McKesson, or you just buy it commercially available. So because of the reasons that I just shared with you, that potentially that temperature excursion can occur at the drug distributor stage of the storage. So therefore, and a more current drug stability data may or should come from the drug distributor rather than the manufacturer or the sponsor. However, we do feel that no matter who is sending the drug, I think it will be good that they will be able to send out the updated drug storage stability data. Because we don't know if drug excursion occur. So, and currently my understanding is not all manufacturer or sponsor will send a drug stability data for each lot that they send out, or each shipment that they send out. I think that's a better way to phrase that. So consequence to that, that's one thing that we wish to put into a procedural, and that we are going to ask that, or actually it will be good for when SWOG sign a contract with a sponsor, is put it in the agreement that each time they send out a shipment of the drug to our drug distributor, they should include the most current drug stability, whether this change or not, to provide that information to the drug distributor. So PMB currently is agreed that if they are the drug distributor of the study drug, they will hold the responsibility to take the calls from the investigator side. And if McKesson is the drug distributor, then they will hold the responsibility to receive the call, which I think is also the safest practice as well, because that will be where the most accurate information will come from. So essentially, this is where we are. But of course, if there's an excursion that occur in the drug distributor, so it will be the drug distributor's responsibility to add on additional, if there's any change in the drug storage stability, then that it will be updated by the drug distributor. So in short, that is how we propose to resolve this drug storage question that came in from from investigator side. So I don't know if I was clear on that. So any questions, comments, or suggestions?
I do have a question. I'm curious about in this situation, because I think we're dealing with I can see of two things. When you say storage excursion, seems like it's already, the protocol already have the stability or I would say the temperature storage range listed. And the site discover that the temperature at the site, the storage temperature has been exceeds like whatever that range. So they already determined. So the stability information was there. So in that case, in generally, I would think that for the IDS perspective, we will quarantine the drug and then contact the sponsor for the approval of using the drug. I think that's kind of how the typical procedure. So I just am curious about you mentioned here about the further stability information, like what kind of information are we looking at? Because usually at site, like for me, like as a pharmacist at the IDS, I probably would not interpret those for more detailed stability. Ultimately, we would like to get an approval, right? Of official approval documentation from the sponsor. They are determining, they are looking at it, and then they just say that, okay to use. Because a lot of time the stability data, it's just, they give you a range, a temperature range. It really depends on how long the excursion occur. It's not just like, sometimes it's like 1 minute or 5 minutes might not be significant. So I think, I don't know how much detail they were willing to provide to the site. Is it going to be temperature ranges plus the duration of that excursion?
So that's a good question, because I actually, to be honest with you, I didn't know all this detail either until I look into this. So I actually was able to see a sample of the stability data coming out from the manufacturer / sponsor. And actually, I believe it might be from Eli Lilly. I said that just because we have a representative from Eli Lilly, which is good because it actually provides very detailed information. And then in that particular example, they actually show that if an excursion occur, if this is within that range, then how they will change the drug stability. And so you can calculate from there and say, okay, is the drug still good, or do I shorten the expiration date of the drug, etc., or the drug is not usable because of the excursion is within that range. However, I think the reason why we are, however, the example that occurred was because the manufacturer didn't feel comfortable providing that information. And the reason behind that is because the storage is in the manufacturer, but when they send the drug to the drug distributor, there's another storage, right? Before that drug that lot or that shipment of the drug or portion of that gets sent to an investigator site. So excursion can occur at the drug distributor storage area, and that may further, but the manufacturer won't know that because I don't think the drug distributors are required to report that. So because of that, I think that's why the sponsors don't feel comfortable being the provider because they may not be providing the most accurate information. Matt, help me out if I am not clear on this.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, to use a specific example, I know we had a situation, and maybe an example will help. So SWOG was an IND holder, and as part of the responsibility as the sponsor of the IND, you're responsible for making those kinds of assessments and keeping record of those. So when the drug comes from the manufacturer to whether it's PMB we'll call us a secondary distributor, or McKesson as a secondary distributor, the company can tell us what happened to it while it was at the company. And based on that information from when they manufactured it to when we received it, they can provide a stability memo, is what we're receiving from companies, that could vary from shipment to shipment, even for the same lot. So once it gets to us, then our responsibility as part of the agreement with the pharmaceutical companies, and this should be the same for McKesson, is obviously documenting the storage condition while it's in our care. So we now have information from the company, information from the secondary storage facility that we have to kind of put together to then make an assessment if a site calls with a site level excursion. So the company didn't have the secondary distributor information, storage information, to be able to make an assessment on a site level excursion. So now the excursion evaluation is going to be through the secondary distributor. So if it's PMB, it's obviously PMB, and you would come to us, and that's in the protocol. If it's coming directly from a company, if it's coming from a secondary distributor like McKesson, there needs to be something set up with them to make an assessment of that company to McKesson stability memo, plus the stability during the time being stored at McKesson, to be able to assess a site level excursion.
Does it make sense?
So historically, I've never had any problem with PMB and assessing the excursions. If we have an excursion, the drug comes from PMB, you just email PMB after hours, and you get a response. Those always, they're always good about that. But if the drug comes from McKesson, I don't think, I did not have any luck with that. So a lot of times we would have to, they just say, okay, just reorder or make a new order, because they cannot make that assessment. So are we saying now that they are able, they're going to be the ones assessing how long was the excursion for, and then based on whether that drug experienced a previous excursion at their warehouse, somebody's going to be making that call, saying acceptable or use, not use. And if that's so, like we need to have like a specific, like either an email or a specific point of contact person, because if you just call like a regular McKesson number, you might not be talking to the right person. So
right.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Matt. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Sufan and I actually talked specifically about this, and it really comes down to what the agreement is between the sponsor and the pharmaceutical collaborator that's providing the drug. And it really needs to be something specific that they're going to provide whether it's a CRADA or an MTA or whatever the agreement is between the three parties, the company, the pharmaceutical company, the secondary distributor, and SWOG in the case of this group, where that information is going to come from and how they're going to get it. So in their three-way agreement, there has to be something that says the company is obligated to provide something to, we'll use McKesson in this case, and then McKesson would be the ones that would retain that information from the company, incorporate their stored information, and then provide a response to an excursion. Now, if that's not something that McKesson's comfortable or willing to do, it may be a point where they just say that you have to replace it, and that might be part of the agreement. It just depends on how the agreement is negotiated up front. And I don't think that was really being. Sufan may have done some more digging, but I don't think that level of detail was being documented or agreed to up front. And that's something that needs to be looked at in the agreements moving forward, I think.
Well, I'll just say that actually kind of we need to put our time frame that you actually be involving in a process to change the practice. So no, the system is not set up with secondary distributor. I just realized I should not be using names, so I'm going to call it, and Matt, thank you for the suggestions of the term, secondary distributors. But I do feel that a lot of this are based on logical thought process to say, yeah, I mean, we cannot be asking the manufacturer or the sponsor to take that responsibility because there's a stop, which is the drug distributor where further incidents may occur that would affect the drug's stability data. And therefore, if we make the manufacturer be the person who make the decision, they are not getting the most updated information. So it certainly makes sense for the secondary drug distributors to make that decision, just like PMB is a secondary drug distributor, quote unquote, right? But how do we make that occur? Currently, there's no agreement at this moment. But this is what I have talked to the SWOG operation office about, and that is my recommended, because they came and asked me what I think and what do you think we should do? And I mean, I'm balancing is the science on the drug storage science. And I'm also balancing that I would hate to see people, because they don't have the information that they should have, and make a decision to just waste a whole batch of drugs. I mean, those drugs are expensive. We can save those to save lives. And I don't believe in making decisions like that. And that's the reason why I said, well, can we ask people to take on a little additional responsibility if we, each of us in this process, play a part in protecting the drug, which in turns will offer more for our patients, then isn't that our goal, right? And that's the reason why I am recommending for the op office to negotiate with the manufacturer to provide the stability information for each shipment that they send out, because it's not routinely done at this point. Some companies do that, but not all companies. But they can negotiate it when they sign the agreement, right? And in addition to that, the same thing will be I think PMB is set with my conversation with Matt, but it's the secondary, the commercial secondary distributors that we use. And again, this is all contract agreement. And then with that, we hope that McKesson, I'll just use McKesson, will be able to identify a contact person. And therefore now contact information will be available, and it will make everybody's life a lot easier. And you're also getting the most accurate information to make a decision also, and not just make it because it's easier, the easiest thing to say, right? Oh, just throw away or just send it back. But no, it can be, drug can be still active also. So
We have a question online.
go ahead. Yeah. No, go ahead. You can.
Oh, we have a question online from Kim. Kimberly, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering then, as an end user, who would I reach out to if I had an excursion? Would it be some instruction in the protocol, or would I know to reach out to, like, look at the packing slip, who it came from, reach out to, for example, distributor A, and then also notify PMB? Or are we at that point yet where we know what the process flow would be?
I think it would depend on where you get the study drug from. If you get the drug from PMB, PMB will be the person you call, or the party that you call. If you receive the drug from other secondary distributor, those are the people that, because they are the one who should have the most. Now, of course, the system is not set up, so don't use your current practice or
Right.
resource as concerns. But eventually, you're right. We also have looked into, yes, we will need to change the protocol language when this become a reality.
Practice.
Yes.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
would we still report to PMB regardless of who the distributor is? So
Huh?
that there's,
No.
would we,
No,
no,
No.
okay.
No.
no, and that should be, if the protocol is coming through us, we will clarify that and specify that in the drug information section. So if it should come through PMB, then we'll have our standard language in there.
Wonderful. Thank you both.
Great. So any other suggestions or comments? If not, then I would continue to work with the office to set this up as a procedure and also negotiate with all parties involved. Except PMB. No, I'm just kidding, Matt. So the key is I just want to make sure that we get the end users input also to make sure that this is something that is workable. So I see a lot of nods and also I didn't see any hand raised, so that's a good sign. So I will take it from here, and then yes, there will be a lot of changes occur, including change in the protocol languages as well. And that's going to take some time because there are a lot of active protocols already ongoing. But we also need to work with all the parties involved for them to identify people, the system to receive the calls and things like that as well. All right. Thank you
Fine.
again. Yes.
Before you move on to that one, I think one of the things we need to include in the discussion is what kind of a time frame there is for response.
Okay.
I know we do have, sometimes we have issues getting timely responses from pharmaceutical collaborators, and we're usually able to ship next day if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Because we try to be judicious with our supplies and not provide too much extra to sites, and they wouldn't be expected to store them in multiple locations routinely anyway. But there needs to, if it's going to be a day's turnaround, then we need to have at least thought about the mechanism to replace those supplies if necessary.
Yeah, that's a good point. Accountability, definitely. We will make sure, I will make sure to advise the office to include that in the expectations also. Thank you. So moving on to the second half of the agenda, we're still with good timing. So the next thing is to introduce an initiative that we are working on. So this is kind of in support of the NCI APP initiative. So one of the things is that NCI has sort of very proactively want to find out what pharmacists can contribute as to be part of the APP initiative. As we all know, within our field, the level and the spectrum of practice is varied a lot. You'll be amazed at what some of the people are doing. But of course, at the same token, I think one of the challenges is that because most of the time, pharmacists in an investigational institution are usually not paid by the research office. They're usually paid by the pharmacy department. So consequence to that, I think oftentimes it makes it a little bit difficult for pharmacists to have the level of freedom that they wish to have to be able to do what they can do in research. I can be wrong, but again, it varies in different institutions too, depending on the leadership. But I do hear that as potential as a barrier. So as NCI challenge us to think about what we can do in the APP initiative, I kind of feel that, well, CPOE is something that most pharmacists do routinely anyway, whether it's research or not research activity. So that's the reason why we selected CPOE as the first initiative that we wanted to work on. So just to give you some background, so before this meeting, we have put together a focus group, and how I gather is based on people sent me their interests in participating, as well as their practice site. My goal is to select people that represent different areas of practice site and including community practice also. And so we put together a focus group, and we have met a couple of times and looking into how to create this initiative. Of course, we're driving this initiative, but we are in close collaboration with the SWOG APP task force. And so I have presented this slide deck at this meeting. First of all, on Wednesday morning to the SWOG Quality Initiative Committee, which include the group chairs and multiple disciplinaries within SWOG. So they are aware of we're doing this. And essentially what I'm doing is just capturing feedback to see if this is something that we should proceed. And then yesterday, I also bring this to the APP task force and presented this as well to get the feedback, because this is certainly a very interprofessional initiative. However, based on the day-to-day practice, most of the time CPOE creation is usually driven by pharmacists. So I thought this is an opportunity for us to start with this. So just to give you a background of why I also think that it will be something to consider, is because when in my conversation with the op office, the feedback I receive is the estimated time to prepare a protocol-specific chemotherapy order, usually average at about 2 to 3 months. During the protocol activation process. And this is among all investigator sites. They can be a high-level academic center versus to a very rural community center, which has limited resource also. And so an additional time may be needed oftentimes, because now you hand it over to IT to implement that into the EMR platform. So of course, other things are concurrently going. However, I can see that potentially as a rate limiting steps. And this is something that I wonder if an intervention occur, can we help to shorten this activation period also? So as I was exploring this, I also learned that CTSU is already doing something similar to this. And what they are doing is they create an EMR template that provide the protocol element that are most relevant to the EMR. And so the intention is to assist the site in configuring the EMR application for chemotherapy ordering. So of course, the objective of why they create this EMR template is very similar to what we are doing our CPOE initiative, is to decrease the protocol startup time and as well as the use of resource at the site level. So the template is targeted for not just to the site, but also to the pharmacist, the investigator, research nurses, the IT staff, and also the quality assurance personnel. So first of all, I thought it will be good to just quickly provide you some background about what this EMR template from CTSU look like. So essentially, this is presented in an Excel spreadsheet format. And there are 3 tabs on this Excel spreadsheet. The first one is the treatment plan tab, which is the most extensive tab out of the 3. And then the second one is a screening evaluation tab. And then the last one is a version history tab. So I took some images of all this tab just to kind of share with you some of the content in each of the tabs also. So, and I selected, I got an example, 2 examples. So I chose one of the ones which has 2-arm study, which is the S1900G study, which is a lung map sub-study. So this is what the EMR template looks like. So for the treatment plan tab, so you can see the heading of that. We'll start with the protocol description, who are the PIs, the dosing rate, the treatment drug information, and also who supplies the drug, etc. So this is in the top portion of what I show you on the screen here. And then it start looking like more an Excel spreadsheet tab. And you can see that the first column is the treatment period. And then if it's a 2-arm study, they have arm A and then arm B, and then comment is some of the additional details that they want to share. And you can see that in the treatment period column, the content that is included start with pre-treatment screening, patient education, etc. So the presentation of the content is quite logical and is quite comprehensive. So not all of them necessarily need to go into a chemotherapy order, but I would say that there's quite a bit of information that can go into a chemotherapy order. So this is, I think, a little above and beyond what we typically will put in a chemotherapy order, but certainly there's a lot of information and it's presented in a very comprehensive manner. And then of course, arm A and arm B will address for the specific drugs in the treatment arm, in that respective treatment arm for that. So then going on the continuation of the treatment tabs, as you can see, as it continues, then it will provide more details of the treatment drug, including the dose, route, administration, schedules, etc. And then it also includes pre-meds and drug interaction. So as I said, it's quite comprehensive in that sense. So not all the elements needs to go into the chemotherapy order. But I'll draw your attention to, on this particular slide, the top 2 row. As you can see for the cycle 1, it says on the first column, it says require anti-emetic prophylaxis. And then the second row says require pre-hydration medication. Now, when you go and through that row, the second column, it says may be given as per ASCO guidelines. So no direct information, but it require abstraction of information and assessment of the guidelines to take it to a chemotherapy order stage. The reason why I highlighted that is that's because I feel that that is an area that we can take it to the next step, to make it easier for the site, for them to adopt this, what we wish to create into the final chemotherapy order format. And this is where I think we may be able to shorten the startup time because we do the legwork for that. And part of the reason I said that is, for example, pulling out the anti-emetic prophylaxis, right? First of all, one has to evaluate the immunogenic potential of the treatment. And then you go into the guideline and decide on what is the most appropriate anti-emetic. Is it a 4-drug regimen, 3-drug regimens, etc.? Because those are driven by the immunogenic potential, particularly in protocol where investigational drugs are used. The drugs are not commercially available. That means that one has to go to the IB and do certain level of assessment to determine the immunogenic potential of the regimen. So to me, I find that can all, particularly in site, if they don't have the higher level practitioner, how would they manage that? And would that be also a possibility that they may not be using the most appropriate regimen? And subsequent to that, now you can potentially lead to a higher adverse events. Or they can be overusing it, which is fine. But again, there's increased cost, right? So that's not something that how we want to work with our healthcare system also. So this is based on some of those observations as I look through this EMR template that I see room that we can further support this document. And then as you can see on the treatment plan tab, as you go through, if there's any modification of subsequent cycle from cycle 1, because sometimes we do have titration of doses and things like that, then the tab continue to build on that and then they address those also. So it's very nice. And then the last tab on the last section of the treatment plan tab has to do including the off treatment. So this is the whole entire tab of the treatment plan tabs. And then, as I said, then you have the screening evaluation tab, and this is the whole thing within for that protocol. And this is just really emphasizing on some of the evaluation. What do you do when the patient come back, or initial evaluations? What are the labs that you need to do? So it's kind of like the section 9 of the protocol. That's where the information will come from. And then last but not least, there's the version history tab. So this is a way to track in case if there is any revision, then the EMR template will track and update their information accordingly. So this, I just want to show you what the EMR tab from CTSU look like. So I think I already shared with you some of my observation and how my brain was thinking already. So I am proposing that we can complement this CTSU initiative by furthering the EMR template and make it into a looking more like a real-time chemotherapy order by not referring to guideline. Now that's how it's written in protocols, and that's the reason why the EMR template from CTSU look like that. Certainly reasonable, and I do agree that we don't need to be so specific in the protocol itself, the document. However, this is an opportunity that we can also help to bridge that gap for the site. And then I have been in communication with CTSU directly, and they are totally supportive of what we wanted to do, and they feel that that will be helpful as well. So they actually call it the initial study build. So I'm going to use that term. So that's what the CPOE focus group will work on to create a protocol-specific chemotherapy order. And the goal is that to create it in a format that can be effectively and efficiently adapted by all investigator site, whether it's a high-level site with a lot of resource versus to a smaller practice site where they have limited resource. This is our way to support for shortening the protocol activation time, and that's the goal across all different practice setting also. So I think the objective of this, I mentioned that already. To me, I also feel that that will also improve the quality of the chemotherapy order, as well as potentially the accuracy of how we use supportive care medications, etc., as well. So this is our proposed procedure. And again, nothing written in stone. Is just so that we have something to share and then to allow people to give us feedback. And so major modification can certainly occur. And actually, I already make some slight changes in this slide deck since I've been here based on the feedback that I've received from the last 2 presentations that I've done at this meeting on Wednesday and Thursday. So the proposed procedure will be the op office or the study team. Either one of those can inform a designated person from the CPOE focus group to say, we're ready, let's initiate that. So one of the questions came is the plan to wait for the EMR template and then we develop the chemotherapy order. However, as I learn more about that, the EMR template may not come out early on. So if we wait for that, it may limit the time that we have to work on creating the CPOE, the initial order build. So, and knowing in pharmacy practice, and I have once upon a time been in practice also, that we can be very equipped to maybe just look at a guideline, chemotherapy order, or we can go into a protocol and create the chemotherapy order. So we can do that without the EMR template. We can read the protocol and abstract that. However, I think one step that will always be included before we send it for final review will be to make sure that whatever is created and review are aligned with the content in the EMR template. And in addition to that, I think this will also give us an opportunity to do your QA on both documents also. So that's what my response to the parties that raised the concern about that. And so so that's one thing. And then in addition to that, we feel that maybe we should reserve the focus group member be reviewer. So we are proposing to have the pharmacist liaison assigned to the disease committee or the cancer control committee. I added on that one as well, who will be the ownership of the protocol. So they will be the writer. And I'm in the process of working with the OLP chair, committee chair, to recruit for, because they also have nurse liaison and maybe some other personnel as well to be involved. So after this meeting, we will be scheduling some calls with the OLP, and she's going to talk to her group as well to seek input and responses. And then we're going to schedule a call after the group meeting to further this and see if we can set up this process to see for the other disciplinaries how we're going to do that. Now, for our own pharmacist liaison, I did send out an email before this meeting to all the pharmacist liaison to seek for input. I haven't heard a no so far. The concern that I get back primarily is how much time do we have? So I know that most of our pharmacist liaison has been involved in doing the Section 3 drug information section as a reviewer. And most of the time, the whole process of creating the Section 3, we get a total of 4 to 6 weeks. That's too short to create that CPOE order. So I went back and looked at the protocol development timeline. Which is not easy because it's quite complicated and there's a lot of review process. But I figure the last phase of that, where the study team get 90 to 120 calendar days to create the last version of the protocol, that might be the best time because the protocol will be mature enough that we can start that process. So I shave out 30 days out of that range. So I would say, what about 60 to 90 days? That's a proposal. If people feel that it will be good to ask for more time, we can negotiate on that. But I think we can start with the 60 to 90 days as a potential working time. So that would be 2 to 3 months for us to create that. And if that's workable, that's what we will put it in the proposed procedure. And I'm working with the focus group on that. This is not a decision that is just made by one person here. And most of you know that I don't usually run things that way. And so after that, the way that we're going to do is to have all the members on the focus group to serve as reviewer. Of course, it will be done by the APRNs, which is the advanced practitioner nurses. I already get the chair of the APP task force be as the first volunteer on that. And then after the review is done, then we'll send the final version back to the study team for their final review and approval. And of course, revision may occur while we are developing that. So we hope that the communication will be there. And really, if you look at this procedure, I mean, ultimately, I also hope that on the secondary aspect of that, I hope this will also deepen the engagement of the liaison, particularly our pharmacist liaison within the committee, within the disease or the cancer control committee. And actually, when I was presenting, there are a couple of those committee chairs, and they are already making inquiry and say, oh, can I make the announcement? I say, hold tight, not yet. But they're very enthusiastic to see that this will be occurring. So we are starting to receive positive response of that. And of course, when I presented to QI initiative, I think we have a very healthy discussion. And overall, they also supportive of this. The group chair was sitting there, and I see Dr. Blanky nodding his head. So that was a good sign also. So I think this calls for a further movement of that. So what are some of the pending items at this point? Recruitment of nurses to work with the pharmacist liaison as the writer group. Determining where's the optimal placement of the study build document. And interestingly, I think CTSU was assuming that people are receiving the EMR template because it is actually being used. And interestingly, no, I have not heard any of my pharmacy colleagues throughout this whole discussion process that they have used the EMR template to build the CPOE. And I just wanted to mention that to confirm if I'm being accurate in hearing that. Yes. Can you go up to the mic? Thank you.
So I'm Cassandra, I'm from the Crown Consortium in Wisconsin, and we do NCTN trials as well as cancer control and cancer control delivery. And I was just using the EMR template for a newer study to work on, I work with the pharmacist on both the treatment build as well as the study build for the investigational ERX is what we call them. And she thought it was helpful, but she really would like something more like this because, again, having to refer back to guidelines all the time, it just slows everybody down in the whole process. So we've been doing this, and I actually had one question too, if I may.
Please.
Sometimes the guidelines have a lot of you can do one of several options. Have you guys considered how that's going to be handled, or if it's just going to list them all?
Well, I think part of what we'll do is because we also recognize that individual institutions might have their own drug formulary, et cetera. So that is something that we are well aware of. So as we develop this order build, our intent is to just make sure that we have the content there. Perhaps we can provide some choices, right, in parentheses. So at least to give the site an idea of, okay, so this is the class of drug that we can use type of thing. So we are not going to build it in the sense that we only provide you with like one drug and expect that everybody will use that because really in reality, we don't do that either. And it's really need to be looking at, and beyond drug formulary, there are other issues that we need to be respectful of. So no, it won't be just like a very straight order being set up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Any participant online that have question? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. So so what I plan on doing is after this presentation, and I don't think I'm presenting to anybody else after that. I will regroup with the focus group, as well as I would also send out a follow-up because this is the first opportunity that I got a chance to also present it to some of the pharmacist liaison. I sent the information, but I did not like organize it and share of where I'm coming from also. So I would also be continuing to be in communication with the pharmacist liaison. And at some point, I might ask for a Zoom call meeting that we can talk about it in more detail as we take it to the next steps of maturity of this process. But I will rely on a lot of my colleagues on the task force to guide me through this process. But the good news is it seems like in general, I see positive feedback on that. So I'm very happy to hear that we are on the right track also. So with that, I also want to clarify that for the pharmacist liaison, I did clarify with them. So as currently the pharmacist liaison's responsibility also serve as reviewer for the Section 3. So now because we have more alumni residents from the program becoming full-time member. And since many of them are IDS trained, but not necessarily oncology focused trained, although they have done a good job in responding to a lot of oncology related issues also. So what I'm planning to do is to have the alum resident to serve as reviewer. And because they have gone through the program, so they also have better insight into as they do the review as well. So this is, I would say, so this is what we are planning to do. And so the pharmacist liaison will no longer serve as the reviewer. So their focus will be building the CPOE unless this tremendous number of Section 3 that we need to write, then we may need to bother the pharmacist liaison. So we plan on maybe doing some pilot just to test out, because I know that there's already a couple of PIs who are very interested in having this while they're developing a protocol. So I'm going to kind of approach those champions, and then we'll run a couple of pilot to just test it out and see how that goes. But of course, before we do that, we still have some decisions that we have to make. So I will be meeting with the focus group again to address some of the aspect and to further this along because we have with all the feedback that we have received again. So anything that you wanted to add, Joyce or Safi?
I have a comment or kind of maybe suggestion or comment or question. So I think that in the clinical trial world, definitely we want to make sure the sort of the accurate version of the protocol that we work off when we create any of kind of treatment order set. So I think maybe my question is, do we know for the EMR templates when the CTSU built it, like when do they start working on that? Like when, which kind of protocol stage, at what stage that they are start creating that? So I think maybe we can aim for at least around that time, like can we get that same kind of version of the protocol, if I may say, to start creating our template, but we do it independently. So they are doing the EMR template while we are doing our CPOE. And at the end, like what you said, we will always match and make sure that those two align with also the original protocol that get approved before we release all this template, because it's very important that the informations are accurate and before we distribute to the site. That's kind of my comment.
Okay, thanks. I mean, that's a good point. And actually, I just have some initial communication with CTSU and gather the information. I have not gone back to them, although they know that we're working on it because I have some communication indirectly through my NCI contact. So I intend to, after we get more structure, then I will go back to them and present it to them. So my intent is we are doing this in partnership with APP Task Force, in partnership with CTSU, and of course with the Op Office as well. And that will be continuing. So that's the coordination part of that. So definitely that will be a question that I will ask them. I don't think anybody in the Op Office know that I can tell. They just know when they received the EMR template so far. But I think I can, since I have the contact people at CTSU, so that's something that I can inquire with them. And I also want to share with them that we're not going to wait for their available, so it doesn't put pressure on them also, because I feel that we can do it with a protocol skeleton to start with. And then, of course, at the end is just to make sure that both documents are aligned and we don't create any confusion to the study site also.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to emphasize to the Op Office that we are not kind of pushing them to hurry up and get the EMR template. And I think the beauty of doing it independently is almost serving as a double checking system. Like we are double checking, their EMR template, and they might be double checking ours as well. So I think that is kind of actually a positive things that when we do them independently for multiple reasons.
So one thing I don't think I included in my slide deck is I just want to clarify because we know that protocol constantly get revisions. So it may be very difficult to keep track of, and there's always a possibility that we may get left out in the communication when there's revision. For that reason, and sometimes revision doesn't necessarily impact the the chemotherapy order itself. So our plan is just to do the initial order build, and then we'll leave it up to the office, the study, the protocol manager. Sorry, they have some change in the title. I'm still learning that. The protocol manager to project manager, I think that's what they call, to come back and let us know if it's something that is significant enough that we need to be involved. So we're only going to do the initial one and then allow the rest of the team to drive for when they need our involvement in the process also. Okay, so time is running out, so I'm going to quickly move along. So the next thing is just a review of the pharmacist liaison assignments. We have some new members, and so that allows me to distribute the workload a little bit more. So again, as I mentioned, I'll be sending this out in a slide deck. If there's any request for change, well, I already received one. For change, then I will take that into consideration and adjust that. Again, if you have colleagues in your site that you wish to recommend them, do encourage them to join. Then that way we can even out the workload even more. And of course, ultimately, I would like to take Joyce out of the committee commitment and lessen the number of committees also when she well, actually now, okay.
So if anybody interested in lung and GU committee, please volunteer.
All right. So thank you. The next thing is actually, Kimberly, I abstracted partial of the slides that you provided me on the immunotherapeutics committee. If you wouldn't mind to just give us an update on your first meeting with the committee.
Sure. So it was actually a really good meeting. This is essentially an immunotherapeutics committee meeting that is recently formed. It's kind of disease agnostic, meaning it would be cellular therapy. And there was quite a bit of discussion with the meeting that I attended at SWOG, well, virtually yesterday, where they were talking about how they were going to approach, because there's so many different disease states, and kind of what the best pathway would be for that. But regardless, it's a wonderful team. There's multiple institutions. There are 2 pharmacists that are on the team, including myself. And part of that initial meeting was introductions. They did talk about some of the projects. And I think specifically for this group, they did talk about the pharmacist role. Here, let me pull up the slides that you have there so I can move along with it. The pharmacist role of what the expectations are for pharmacy. So essentially, they looked at the work model. They talked about the different groups. They're looking at not just interventions, but outcomes. Let's see, I can't quite see the screen. Hang on a second. So they do have the iMatch program. They did talk through that. That's kind of a higher level discussion, I think. I'm trying to just give the summary points. They did talk about having assistance with the concepts and how to execute. So a lot of it, and I think part of the discussion that we came to, which I really appreciated, was talking about, this kind of goes from a small section within the protocol of drug information to how to actually get it from product to bedside with the cell therapy administration. Because there's so many different groups involved with that pathway. So there was a very positive response. The team did express that if, depending on the site logistics and how the group kind of worked through things, how pharmacy would be involved with working through and developing like a handling guide. That was one of the questions that was posed. Because a lot of these studies do have handling guides. So a lot of times there is interdisciplinary work with biosafety committees, with the labs processing the cell doses, how it's getting shipped, if pharmacy is involved, depending on the site, who would be involved with that. They also talked about different groups kind of interconnecting as far as biorepository, if there's different central labs, how that would all work. So I think a lot of this was very similar to what I've seen with the other committees, but I think there's a little bit more hands-on approach, and the team is very open to getting any type of feedback from pharmacy with regard to, I guess I want to say, like, end user questions. So I'd be curious to hear from others within this group how your sites work with cell therapy studies currently. If the reliance is completely on the lab to provide, if it goes through pharmacy, how the medication orders look like for those cells. So I think that might be part of the discussion for this group while we kind of work through these protocols and how to carry these out. Next slide.
I only took the first 3 slides
okay.
because I thought this will be the one that the key is to kind of understand how this committee model is and where pharmacists fit or the discussion. So sorry, I took the liberty.
No problem, no problem. I can definitely work with it. So I think that central box, it seems to me like, based on the response, that the group was very open to pharmacy being part of that working group to developing those supportive documents that would help provide the pathway for therapy. Because again, while it is very similar to drug therapy, there are additional intricacies with getting cell therapy to bedside. So you're working with a cell therapy lab rather than just a manufacturer of drug getting shipped overnight and stored in the refrigerator. So it's a lot more complex. So you're working with biohazard safety committees. You're working with different handling requirements. So I think, just to summarize, I think that they are very open to working with the pharmacy member groups to kind of develop those pieces so that it is a very practical document that provides guidance and could be used by pharmacists if they are involved with the process, as well as if nursing has specific questions or information, it would be something developed within those supportive documents. I don't know if that completely answers the question. If anyone else has any questions, or if you have any comments with how your site handles cell therapy at this time.
I can share how we handle cell therapy at UC Davis. The pharmacy department, we don't handle the cell part. So usually that is the sort of study IP products, but we provide supportive care, care or service for the preconditioning chemotherapy. We created the treatment orders just like other studies. And we handled also any sort of a supportive treatment if we needed, such as handling for the toxicity management, CRS and things like that. So for tocilizumab, procurement, and all those other things, but the cell itself, that is handled by the progenitor lab. But we work closely with them. So whatever we have a team, the cell therapy study team. So we coordinate with them and to sort of make sure that the patient, we know when the patient coming in, when the preconditioning chemotherapy treatment will be. And so kind of that's how we arrange at our site.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's very similar with us too here at UC San Diego. We work with our cell team. We have the same things you just mentioned. We look at the cytokine release requirements. Sometimes they'll just go to standard of care, quote unquote, which would follow like Lee's publication, or if it's protocol specific. So these are questions that are consistently coming up for us as the site. And then again, we follow those same exact things. It sounds very similar, which is very exciting, I think. And then we also follow for like infection prophylaxis if necessary, and working through those pieces. So in general, I think talking with the group and asking this question, and I think Jordan can definitely chime in also. I don't mean to overstep or overspeak, but I think they were very open with having that information developed and having pharmacy being part of that role, which I think is fantastic and very exciting.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jordan has a pre-scheduled day off even before he find out that he was going to be part of this committee. So he emailed me and said that he won't be able to attend the meeting and work-life balance. So I encourage him, it's okay, don't do that. So anyhow, I do feel that this is fantastic, and I'm so glad and encouraged by, you know, and I'm not surprised because the chair actually was very proactive in approaching us to begin with. So I'm so glad that it's such a good beginning. But I also wish to encourage that, for example, if and for anybody, not just for this particular committee, if you are, there's no reason why we cannot use our own mailing list that I oftentimes use to send emails to you guys. If you wanted to collect information to find out what other sites are doing, feel free to use that as a mechanism for communication or just to see what other people are doing to gather information. And sometimes there may be an opportunity to create some more central standards as well within SWOG. And in addition to that, we had the SWOG has a strategic meeting in June, actually here in Chicago. And at that point, one of the goal that the whole organization wanted to do is harmonization with the other co-op group. And again, this is always a policy is why duplicate the work? Why not just gather all the talent and create a good working documents? So those are opportunities that I encourage everybody to really think about as well. And so that it's really the way that we should think about managing how we want our committee to be integrated more into the group as well.
I really appreciate you saying that. And I think it's a fantastic idea. I think a lot of times we'll kind of be grappling with a new project and we kind of like, you'll literally say out loud, what are other sites doing with this? So I think I will definitely tap into that, maybe sending out some surveys just to kind of see how people are doing things. You know, how is your lab set up? How do you interact with them? How do you manage these patients? And I think every site is a little different, but I think there is this core principle. So I really appreciate that. And I will definitely take advantage of that.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you again, Kim, for your presentation. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Okay, so last item, open agenda. Anything else that I did not include in this meeting agenda that you would like to bring up for the pharmacist liaison? That what you learned from your the committee as well as for all participants. Okay, and again, I thank you for your participation and attendance, and it's been a lot of good discussion, and I exactly how I like it to be, and I really appreciate that, and thank you again for your input and your willingness to share the information, and I look forward to see many of you the next meeting in Seattle. And just to let you know that I believe that will be our last meeting in Seattle, and we'll be back to San Francisco forever. And actually the spring meeting is moved back from May to April next year.
Really?
Yes, I know. I checked that too because I thought it was going to be May forever, and then now it's that's what I saw on the website. So I hope I'm all right. But anyhow, meanwhile, stay safe and stay well, and I look forward to talking and seeing you in 6 months. Thank you, and I know the holidays is not here yet, but wish you all the good remainder of the year and happy holidays as well. All right, take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.